Here's no surprise. When I plan a dinner party, I consider dessert first. And my chocolate pecan tarts are something else. They're individually plated desserts, which I think elevates a dinner party. So let's get right into it with my pecan pastry. I have 1/3 cup of chopped pecans here. I'm just gonna add that to my chopper. You can use a food processor if you wish. I've measured out 3/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And I'm just going to sprinkle in about 2 tablespoons. This helps grind them to a finer consistency and also absorbs the buttery pecan oils. You really get a sense of the oil within the pecans because it already looks a little crumbly. If you were to just grind the nuts on their own, you'd end up with pecan butter, so that's why you add the flour. Now, I'll add the remaining flour and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now I'll add my 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. This is cold butter. The blades of your chopper or food processor really warm up the butter and work it into the pastry quickly. All right, the butter's in and the sugar. Just a tablespoon. This is not a sweet crust. It's very tender and delicate, but I leave the sweetness for that chocolate pecan filling. There we go. If you wanted to make this pastry by hand, you would need to grind your pecans, but you would treat the recipe like a cookie dough. Cream your butter and sugar, add your other ingredients until it comes together. It does take a tablespoon of cold water to bring it all together. When you see it form into a ball, you know you're set. Normally, if you're rolling out a big tart shell or a pie dough, you flatten your dough into a disc to roll it. But because I want 4 individual tarts, I'm gonna shape this into a log. And that way I can cut this easily into 4 portions and roll each individually. I'll just wrap this up. And because the pastry is warmed up now, I'll let it chill for at least an hour. If you're prepping this ahead of time, you could pop this in the freezer and just thaw it in the fridge overnight before it's time to roll. All right, once the dough's had a chance to set up, it's time to roll. Sometimes you'll find you get a crack right in the middle. Flip your dough over and keep rolling, because sometimes that crack develops on the bottom and it's not till you flip it over and then your pin will just glue it back together. And if you are using tart rings, you want to line your baking tray with parchment paper and put the ring right on the tray. Lift this up and in. Now, because I softened the dough by rolling it, I have to chill it again. But before that, I'll dock the bottom of the pastry with a fork. What this allows for is the expansion. As your pastry bakes, it will lift up. And if you don't dock it, you might end up with a bubble in the bottom of your pastry. All right, I'll pop these in the fridge to set up about 20 minutes, and that gives me time to preheat my oven to 350, and then I'll bake the shells for 15 minutes. Just like baking a cookie, when they turn light brown around the edges, you know they're done. All right, my tart shells are baked and fully cooled so I can make the filling. And just to show you, the tart rings come off easily, but when it comes to baking the filling into the tarts, I leave them in their shells. So to start the filling, I'll melt my 6 tablespoons of butter over medium heat, and I'll wait before I add the next ingredients. All right, my butter's melted, so I can add my 6 tablespoons of light brown sugar and 1/4 cup of golden corn syrup. The corn syrup really gives that pecan filling its textbook stickiness. So now what I like to do is bring this combination of the butter, brown sugar, and corn syrup up to a full simmer and cook it out for a minute. It almost creates like a caramel base to the pecan tart. All right, after that minute, I add 2 tablespoons of whipping cream. Make sure it returns to a full simmer before you pull it off the heat. Oh, it smells so good. There we go. So off the heat, I add my chocolate. I melt into this mixture 1 ounce of dark chocolate. And at the same time, I'll add my 1/2 teaspoon of salt and vanilla. The heat from that caramel base melts the chocolate, and immediately you get that beautiful combination of chocolate and caramel. Oh, it smells so good together. Now it's time for the pecans. I have 1.5 cups of pecan halves, and I'll stir these in now to coat. And at the same time, adding the room temperature pecans is cooling down my chocolate caramel base. So that way, when I add my egg, it won't scramble the egg. I have my 1 egg here, and I'm just gonna give it a little whisk with a fork. That way it blends easily into the pecan base, so I can get it right into the tart shells. And it's definitely best to spoon your filling in, not pour it. That way you can arrange your pecans. Depending on the size of your tart shell, you may have a little extra filling, which is perfectly fine. You can bake that off later. The handy thing about making individual desserts is they take less time to bake. So these only take 15 minutes to set up in a 350 oven. Then I'll let them cool completely and chill them right down. And here they are, baked and chilled. Now it really is up to you. If you want to re-warm these, it makes the filling soften up again because the chocolate melts. Personally, I like them cold, and you could even top them with ice cream. But the fact is, for a dinner party, we have beautiful individual desserts, so each guest feels special. One of the best things about this dessert is that you make it fully ahead of time so you can be a guest at your own dinner party. Enjoy.